No one stands on the top of the world. Not you, not me, not even gods. But the unbearable vacancy of the throne in the sky is over. From now on, I will be sitting on it. Hello and welcome to Merlin's Anime Character Analysis. Today we shall be taking a look at one of the most popular and conversely one of the most hated villains in recent anime. That would be, if you looked at the title for the video, Sasuke Aizen. Aizen is probably one of the most controversial characters in popular anime. There is one major reason for this, as well as some others, but we'll get to those a little later. First, we'll take a look at the character briefly from a plot standpoint and investigate his motivations. Safe to say, there will be spoilers ahead. There is not a great deal known regarding Aizen's past other than his joining the 5th Division under Shinji Harako. He seemed to be a promising soldier who kept his ambitions from most, though when the 9th Division apparently was involved in the betrayal of the Soul Society, his captain made the observation that he suspected something truly dangerous within Aizen. According to flashbacks, this was the first indicator that Aizen had darker intentions for his grand plans, and his ability to manipulate others from within the shadows is also evident here. Fast forward years later, and Aizen is putting his plans into motion again, attempting to cause dissension within the ranks. He does this by trying to push Rukia's execution and use the friction between the squads to eliminate his enemies. In a great twist, he even faked his own death to hide any possibility of his involvement. Later on, Aizen revealed his true plans to try and dominate all of the Soul Society. He does this with the primary plan being to implement the use of the powerful device, known as the Hagyuko. With the Hagyuko, Aizen planned to break down the barriers between Shinigami and Hollows, allowing one to gain the power of the other. With this device, he was able to increase his own power tremendously and use it to create the Arrancar, unmasked Hollows with Shinigami-like abilities. With the Arrancar on his side, he launches an all-out war to essentially achieve godhood and rule over all of creation. Being apparently as brilliant a tactician as he is powerful, Aizen is always one step ahead of the heroes. Over the course of the series, Aizen reveals that many of the events that transpire were in fact part of his overall plan. Most significantly, perhaps, this includes his knowledge of Ichigo from birth, as he saw him as being part of a grand piece of his plan, ultimately to take Ichigo's many abilities. This would include the events that would be pivotal to Ichigo's early development, including the attack of the Manos Grandes, and even sending Grand Fisher to terrorize his family and kill Ichigo's mother. Oh yeah, he went there. This makes Aizen far more connected to Ichigo as a parallel, therefore making him a grand definition of an arch-enemy by most standards, as he is so deeply tied to Ichigo's life. The battle is drawn out, and it leads to many people facing Aizen only to be defeated, and for him to ultimately be defeated by Ichigo, and what would theoretically be a satisfying conclusion to their relationship and to the series itself. Aizen is truly a vat of contradictions. Many of the elements that would make him a frightening villain often make him frustrating as well. He is so calm, polite, and sophisticated to the point where nothing seems to break his composure. What makes him such a good foil for the heroes is that unlike most of the other Shinigami, Aizen has no real sense of honor or compassion for others. He is a true representation of the corruption that sits deep within the darker ideals of the Soul Society. Aizen has no real morals, ruling through manipulation as well as fear and intimidation. He cares nothing for the others, and will kill anyone if it would further his own selfish desires. His treachery of his assistant Momo is perhaps the best demonstration of this, as she looked up to him as a mentor figure. Aizen had no problem using his treachery to destroy her. His betrayal rocked the whole of the Soul Society down to its foundation, and gave virtually every character a motivation to take him down. All this seems like it would make for the formula of a great villain, which to some extent it does. The problem comes from a few basic issues. The first being the biggest, the reason why such a beloved villain has become the butt of jokes in recent years. Aizen is too powerful, too smart, and too calm. As everyone quotes, it's all part of his plan. Aizen is so infallible that it becomes something of a farce. He seems to anticipate every step before the heroes take it. He seems to know everything, even things that it wouldn't seem necessary for him to know. It takes away much of the suspense, making it seem like our heroes have no real chance. So when Ichigo finally defeats him, it seems rather rushed and kind of anticlimactic, as no other Soul Reapers seem to stand a chance before him. This in turn leads to another issue, which is a problem with Bleach overall for many. Due to the scope and length of Aizen's plan and several arcs, this leads to the abundant use of many characters, taking away from the center of the main characters and Ichigo's more personal reason to hate Aizen. Even with the knowledge of his manipulation in early events of the series, it really seems like a mere circumstantial plot device rather than a personal vendetta. It's meant to be personal, no doubt, but it often seems to get lost in the massive plot. The third major element which subverts Aizen's authority is a very simple one. Ichigo does not kill him. Aizen is built up to be the main antagonist of the series, really the only main antagonist, up to that point, with the fate of the whole world resting on all the characters to take down this vile, evil man who betrayed all of them. And he gets by being locked up in prison. Admittedly, it's for 20,000 years, but being that he's basically immortal, it's really only a matter of time before his possible return. Plus, the series kept going, and Aizen is shown to ultimately not be the main villain. With as much time as was put into the series based around him, future villains are given a huge disadvantage as being seen as worthy threats. There is one final point that must be made in regards to Aizen's deemed complexity. Some people have claimed that Bleach has complex themes and a well-written plot. While it is true that Bleach does have some interesting philosophical ideas, a big world, many characters, and a lengthy plot, it is still a battle series, and it just happens to have many, many fights. And that's what the plot is built upon. Not to say that it's not well done at points, but it's not as complex as some would believe. The biggest perpetrator of this is the concept of Aizen himself. Many see him as a complex villain due to his intelligence. As mentioned before, this becomes somewhat comical. Ultimately, Aizen's ambitions are to achieve power and dominance simply because he wants to. Aizen is, when you remove all the smugness and sophistication, a very stereotypical comic book villain. What's worse, we know very little about his early life, and there is no real motivation revealed beyond a desire to achieve power. Did something occur to shift his point of view? We don't really know. The backstory we are given doesn't give much indication of this, only implying his ambition was always there. Not to say this doesn't work. Many great shonen villains only have to be intimidating and have strong presence. Sometimes simple works. The problem with Aizen is, it seems like the writer was trying to make him a bit more complex than he ultimately was. It's really more of a facade. You could argue that it's a lot of style with ultimately very little substance. Now that we've discussed these major points, the final question must be asked. Is Aizen a good villain? To be honest, I would say yes. He is a decent villain. This is true due to his power and presence, his sly demeanor, his cold intelligence, and his close relationship with the hero, at least to some extent. However, any potential he had of being one of the greatest villains in anime has been affected by his comical seeming omnipotence, the overdrawn length of his stay, and the ultimate conclusion of his story. In conclusion, Aizen is a perfect example of having too much of a good thing. Alright guys, that was my analysis regarding Aizen. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to let me know whether you agreed or disagreed, and of course request any videos you would like to see from me in the future. Alright guys, Merlin out. Peace.